So we did book five of Plato's The Republic. So one of the first things that he brings up is Socrates' argument is that men and women should have the essentially the same tasks. So um, this first entails that obviously that they're going to have the same training because I mean it's pretty obvious if you want two people to be able to like do the same tasks, you're not going to give one group lesser training than the other. So they should be equal. Um,
Hmm.
So the next thing, which is very important to note, is that uh, if someone has a certain nature, they're going to have a certain pursuit.
Yeah.
So this doesn't mean that, like his idea of men and women having the same task, doesn't mean that all women can have this task and all men can have this task. It's more centered around you should have, based on someone's nature, they should have a certain pursuit. So on 316, right? So he says, there is no pursuit relevant to the management of the city that belongs to a woman because she is a woman, or to a man because he is a man, but the various natural capacities are distributed in a similar way between both creatures. So it's just saying again, it's not that all people should have a certain task, but based on their nature, they should have
Hmm.
a certain task. On 314, Plato brings up the idea of having shame or like that we shouldn't have shame in unordinary tasks because we basically need everyone to do every job needs to be completed. So it's you shouldn't have one job like technically um like referred to as like a better job, like oh this person has this, he just works this job, he's obviously lesser. That shouldn't be like that shouldn't determine the character of somebody. Next topic, which is I think we agreed that it's like one of the most controversial ideas that he brings up.
Yep.
Um, he goes into depth about like the rules regarding creating children. So the first thing is that a man and a that there should be groups, right? And like men and women should basically be matched up by the state in order to keep making children like uh, to keep track of it and control it, and it becomes an ordeal of the state rather than a personal affair. So what he says is that if you have, let's say, someone who is a great warrior, right? You have a great warrior of a man and also a great warrior woman. Those two should be paired up to create an even better warrior child. So it's basically he's trying to enforce. It's almost like breeding of dogs, kind of like you're trying to create a certain desire. And obviously I think we all agree that this is immoral because this entire idea is like it takes away from the love between man and woman, and it's more of just being matched up. So what
Here,
would y'all say about that?
I mean, here I think he's being too logical because I mean, like on paper, I guess it would make sense if you're trying to accomplish a task of having great warriors. So you're going to pair the best man with the best woman to create a good warrior. But it's taking out like the fact that like of like love and stuff. It's taking away meaning from that, and it's just looking at what makes the most sense for us to accomplish a certain task. It's taking away all human desire and
It's
love in
yeah,
general.
it
Yeah,
takes away the human
it's
attributes.
very uh, meaningful, and it's using it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
It's
it makes sense, but when you look at it in a from like like real like with some kind of emotion, it's not good because it's taking away meaning of something that's very special.
right. It's like he's treating it as like some sort of game. He's treating it like a chessboard or something. Like people have
Mhm.
he's basically saying people have like different sort of statuses, and because of that, like they can't really mix in with people of other statuses. So it's like if you're a pawn, you get matched with a pawn. If you're a knight, you get matched with a, like etc. And it just like totally strips your rights away from you.
It almost reminds me of like what Nazi Germany did when they would um, kill off like they would put people that had autism or deformities in concentration camps so that they would only have people that were healthy to reproduce, to create like a good people, and that's not good.
Yeah, he literally even says, I don't know exactly what page, but he does bring up the idea of like if there's like somebody with a deformity, you tuck them away, right?
Yeah,
Because
and
you
that's what,
you don't want them to be producing like more quote unquote like
and logically
deformities.
it's just not morally right at all.
Yeah. So then the next thing he says is like women are a prize for men. So like let's say that you have this, like once again you have this great warrior male, he should be able to get like the better woman. And it's like it's almost like you said, it's almost like a tool to try to get men to like it gets, what's the word I'm looking for, it's a drive for men to perform well. So
And it's also treating women as kind of like they don't have any opinion. They don't get to pick their man.
Yeah, exactly. It's
almost like an object.
It's treating women as objects.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is important to point out that although a lot of what Socrates is saying is that men and women should have the same jobs, he also goes into say that basically that if you have the man and woman in this job, more than often you're gonna have the men are better than those women within the same job. So like he does say men and women have the same jobs, but he still has this kind of sexist tone behind his message.
You have to look at the times though as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back then that's kind of just how it was. It's how they were taught.
Yeah. So Grant, you did bring up the idea of Nazi Germany, like and putting away people with deformities. So the next thing he says is on page 319, but those of inferior parents or any deformed offsprings of others, they will hide in secret at an unknown place, as is fitting. So basically, creates a sense of inferiority amongst people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we went into how men and women are assigned to each other, right? And how that takes away from the human affection that is natural. And so one thing he says is that, like, if a man and a woman who are not supposed to be matched up, if they make a child, they should basically kill off the fetus of basically kill off the fetuses of unauthorized mating. So it's almost like government enforced abortion, really.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly what it is.
I mean, it's obvious the moral dilemma is there. So that there's no going around that.
It reminds me of 1984, how with the making babies was purely for the purpose of reproducing and had no type of love in it. And it says any unauthorized mating should be like killed. The fetus should be killed off. And that just kind of reminds me of that. You know?
Yeah. It's exactly like you said earlier.
He's taking away all of the meaning of mating with another woman. He's treating it as a tool. Yeah,
it's like you said earlier, Saxon, with like how it's kind of just like you're breeding dogs. You're not giving them like any sort of choice, and like if you don't like what they're reproducing, then you don't have the right to really take that away.
Mm-hmm. So this is like we would probably agree is the biggest problem with what we see in this book, is because not only one is it immoral, but trying to get a society to agree to this, I feel like it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready to move on to the next topic.
3 mentions the idea of a shared life, and the first point, Plato mentions that everyone in society should be sharing of children. So what he means is that everyone is really just one big family at heart, because of the mine and not mine principle, which basically just says that, you can't have any sort of individual possessions, because whatever you may think is yours, it belongs to the person next to you as much as it belongs to you. So it's kind of like your life is an open book, and you share everything, including pain and pleasure. Plato mentions the idea of if I were to hurt my finger, then everyone in my community would feel the pain. And this also goes the same towards pleasure. And then he also mentions children going to war. So what he basically means by this is children should be going to war as soon as they're old enough. Like there's no buffer period. You know, they're young warriors, so they need to learn at a young age. And it also brings up the idea of like predetermined roles. You don't even get to choose what you want to be when you grow up. And then Plato also mentions no wars between Greeks. This is because he mentions that we're all one big family, so we shouldn't be revolting against one another for a community.
Topic 4, he's talking about philosophers as leaders, and he has these changes that he's discussing, and he says that to make these changes, all leaders need to be philosophers. And then later he's talking about philosophers are lovers of seeing the truth, and he kind of goes into it's like an artist. A real artist, when they draw like a picture of something, they normally will put their own spin on it or put some kind of meaning into it. And a philosopher would draw it exactly as the image is, because they like seeing truth. Yeah,
I think that's everything.